Welcome to the DevCam. India's acquisition of the Rafale Marine, a naval fighter designed for carrier operations, reflects its intention to enhance blue water capabilities and project maritime air power beyond its coastlines. However, the platform's financial burden, operational limitations, and restricted compatibility with India's existing carriers make it an asset more symbolic than transformative. The induction of Rafale imposes a marginal shift in threat dynamics, not a decisive leap in Indian naval superiority. Pakistan's naval doctrine, which is structured around asymmetric sea denial, long-range precision strike, and maritime surveillance, provides a cost-efficient and resilient counter to India's expanding carrier-based aviation ambitions. The Rafale M is optimized for operations from catapult-equipped carriers, yet India's current carriers, including the newly inducted indigenous vessel, rely on ski-jump launch systems. Under these conditions, the Rafale M will suffer from launch weight restrictions that limit the aircraft's range, fuel load, and ordnance carriage. This diminishes its operational effectiveness in long-range strike roles or multi-sortie engagements. The actual threat posed by such aircraft is mitigated by the predictable limitations imposed by launch geometry and carrier endurance. These constraints reduce the tempo, depth, and persistence of Indian carrier air operations in contested waters, particularly under conditions of electronic interference or long-range strike interdiction. The cost of integrating the Rafale M into Indian naval aviation exceeds aircraft acquisition alone. India will need to construct dedicated training infrastructure, carrier-based maintenance hangars, and simulation systems specific to this French-origin platform. As this system is logistically isolated from India's existing MiG-29-based naval fleet, the lack of commonality increases the burden on carrier logistics and imposes fresh vulnerabilities in high-intensity conflict. Pakistan, meanwhile, benefits from India's fragmentation of resources, which weakens their ability to maintain operational readiness across a cohesive frontline. This diffusion of focus allows Pakistan to shape its maritime strategy around neutralizing India's carrier platforms with fewer, more agile assets that deny freedom of maneuver through multi-domain surveillance and precision fires. Indian naval aviation remains platform-centric, while Pakistan's evolving naval strategy emphasizes distributed lethality. India's investment in a small number of high-cost fighters operating from limited-deck carriers is susceptible to saturation strikes, missile ambushes, and contested electromagnetic environments. The targeting of carriers using long-range cruise missiles, satellite-guided anti-ship systems, and land-based air power is central to Pakistan's denial posture. By fielding standoff strike platforms like the Babur series, submarine-launched cruise missiles, and surface-launched precision systems equipped with advanced seekers, Pakistan can challenge India's maritime air power without the cost of matching it platform for platform. The deployment of Indian Rafale Ms will be geographically constrained due to the fuel and payload penalties associated with ski-jump launches. Even with aerial refueling, the aircraft's persistent combat presence in forward zones near Pakistan's maritime boundaries will remain limited. Pakistan's coastal defense assets, such as mobile launchers equipped with cruise missiles, integrated with over-the-horizon radar and electro-optical tracking, ensure that any extended Indian carrier operations can be detected, tracked, and engaged well before their aircraft enter the weapons release envelope. Real-time data links, improved target handoff mechanisms, and faster kill chains minimize the effectiveness of carrier-based intrusion in contested zones. Pakistan's air power is being increasingly tailored for maritime roles using platforms that are cost-efficient and rapidly deployable. The integration of standoff air-launched anti-ship weapons with the latest block of the multi-role fighter fleet provides persistent maritime strike coverage. Equipped with active radar seekers, electronic countermeasures, and low observability flight profiles, these systems allow aircraft to engage surface targets at extended ranges while remaining outside the threat envelope of shipborne air defenses. India's carrier aviation, including the Rafale M, will be forced to operate under the constant risk of these mobile launch platforms, especially in areas near Pakistan's exclusive economic zone or maritime patrol sectors. Pakistan's expanding submarine fleet, combined with a network of underwater sensors and satellite surveillance, offers another layer of carrier denial. Submarines armed with cruise missiles, if positioned with accurate targeting data, can impose a permanent threat to carrier movement in the northern Arabian Sea. The cost of defending a carrier group against these threats using escorts, air patrols, and anti-submarine assets far exceeds the cost of fielding the denial system itself. Pakistan's asymmetric advantage lies in this disparity of investment to effect ratio. Every carrier movement requires massive logistic and escort resources, whereas neutralizing one or restricting its mobility can be achieved with smaller, dispersed, and hidden assets. India's future ambition to field catapult-equipped carriers will take several years to materialize. Until then, any aircraft, including the Rafale M, will operate below optimal launch parameters. This forces India to either restrict payloads or limit mission range, both of which benefit Pakistan's maritime defense posture. Pakistan, meanwhile, is focused on enhancing unmanned maritime surveillance, long-endurance drone operations, and joint sensor networks with allied navies in the region. These systems provide early warning of carrier movement and enable real-time tracking that feeds into strike planning at all levels of escalation. While India focuses on prestige systems like Rafale M, Pakistan is advancing through incremental improvements in command and control, data fusion, and time-sensitive targeting. Maritime situational awareness is being expanded through space-based imaging, underwater acoustic monitoring, and networked aerial reconnaissance. The integration of Chinese technology, including wide-area maritime sensors and long-range radar systems, supplements Pakistan's indigenous capabilities, creating a layered defense net that can detect and respond to incursions from the sea or air. These investments support flexible, coordinated responses that are less dependent on individual platforms and more focused on integrated effects. In the future, Pakistan may explore land-based variants of next-generation low-observable aircraft with maritime configurations. Such platforms, deployed along the Mekong coast, could provide persistent air denial zones against carrier groups without the complexity of operating naval fighters. These aircraft could be armed with long-range air-to-ship weapons, enabling first-launch advantage in a confrontation. The cost-to-performance ratio of such systems would favor Pakistan's doctrine of precision engagement from dispersed ground-based assets, especially when guided by sensor networks covering deep maritime zones. Additionally, Pakistan is developing hypersonic glide vehicle technology under joint programs with regional partners. These vehicles, launched from ground or sea platforms, can maneuver at high speeds, complicating interception by traditional shipborne missile defenses. Their integration into a future missile architecture would render slow-moving platforms such as carriers vulnerable unless protected by next-generation multilayered defense systems. India's investment in carrier aviation does not yet include sufficient coverage against such threats, especially if attacks are launched simultaneously from multiple axes using electronic decoys and jamming. From Pakistan's strategic lens, the Rafale M is not a platform that radically alters the balance of naval power. It is an expensive, logistically complex system that must operate within restrictive launch parameters and faces growing denial challenges across all maritime domains. Its high cost and limited scalability make it a less efficient tool for force projection than India's planners may claim. Pakistan's countermeasures, both existing and under development, focus on neutralizing this capability before it becomes a threat rather than matching it in kind. The success of Pakistan's strategy lies in its ability to impose dilemmas on India's high-value systems. If the Indian Navy is forced to divert substantial resources to protect a limited number of Rafale M aircraft operating under constrained conditions, the strategic equation shifts in Pakistan's favor. As long as Pakistan maintains the ability to detect, target, and threaten Indian naval aviation from land, sea, and air with cost-effective systems, the operational impact of even the most advanced imported platforms will remain contained. The battle for maritime dominance will not be decided by who fields the most expensive fighter, but by who can disrupt the other systems faster, cheaper, and more effective way. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos.